Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
This is Mr. Chris Claremont, a legend.
Melanie goes,
Tired.
how's it going, all you Minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for my overview of these latest releases from the world of Dark Horse Comics. So, let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. Before going any further, a big thank you to the folks at Dark Horse for sending us copies of these books. Every one of these books has already been released, and these are all a series of soft covers. So I do put timestamps in the description of the video to let you know where you're going to find the book you're interested in case you're curious about one or two titles, or in case you don't want any spoilers. So make sure you check out the description of the video. And also in the description of the video is where we have our Patreon link and our Spreadshop link. It's a great way to support the channel if you can do so. Now, before I go any further, though, please don't forget to smash that like button. That goes a long way for us here on the channel. Very small thing you can do, but it does mean the world to us. All right, let's go ahead and kick it off today with, let's talk about Transplants, a very interesting new series. Transplants. What a really cool concept, and it reminded me of a Simpsons episode, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second whenever I talk about the plot, but it's really cool. I dig it. I really enjoyed this book. So Transplants, the script's by Dave Collard, the art is by Domenico Carbone, and the colors are by David Sorio, and Frank Vetkovic is your letterer. Really like the artwork too. It's very dynamic. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like Marcus To or Stuart Eminem. Maybe a little bit of like Olivier Coipel. But this is a really short and quick story. It is only 88 pages and retails for $19.99. And it is the story about, this is Jessica, who is getting a heart transplant. And she codes on the table. However, she awakens and she's like, wait, I'm still alive, having all these flashbacks of, her horrible life at home, her mother-in-law taking away her baby, and she's like, wait, I'm not dead yet. So what ends up happening is that through some montage, if you will, you find out that she's unique after this heart transplant, that she's got energy, that she's got strength, she's got reflexes that she normally didn't have. So you probably guessed it, that the heart probably maybe belonged to some kind of superhero, perhaps, or maybe somebody from a different corporation. And if this person died, and you'll see it at the very beginning, he ends up getting hit by a bus, then where the other organs go? Well, that's where the support group comes in, where every one of these people have a transplant, like some kind of organ that was donated to them from the same person. And of course, the person, Paula, who's holding this meeting together, has to be very discreet as to who this person was and what they did. But it's really cool because they don't all share the same kind of powers. Some of them are really fast. Some of them have invulnerability. Some of them can shoot like an optic blast out of their hand or eyes. And if it's only one eye, where is the other eye? So what ends up happening is they start forming a sort of superhero team, calling themselves the Plants, or Transplants, if you will. And they're trying to figure out exactly who the donor was, where he worked, and who's behind all of this. I thought it was a really enjoyable story. And, of course, Jess is still dealing with, hey, this woman stole my baby, and I want my baby back. This one here is older teen, mainly due to the language. And that's pretty much all I will say about it. I don't want to spoil anything that happens. But it does leave enough open for a follow-up series. So here's your sketchbook. These are mainly all of the patients right here that have gotten some kind of superpower. And I did not talk about every single one of them for a reason. And Paula is the lady that was kind of like the caseworker behind the transplants. Next up is Savage Squad 6. And this is a book by Robert Venditti, who has worked on Hawkman, who did an amazing job on Hawkman, and I love his Green Lantern. I hope one day that all gets collected in some kind of omnibus format. But this collects Savage Squad 6, 1 through 4. So you have Robert Venditti. I always say Vendetti, but I think it's Venditti. And Brockton McKinney are the main writers, and Dalton is the illustrator, with Micah Myers doing the lettering and the color art by Geraldo Filo. So what this all takes place in this possible future. This all takes place after humans have been hunted down by these murderous creatures, maybe a virus. I don't want to spoil too much as to what they could be, or maybe it's not really thoroughly explained, known as the Scourge. And there are militant teams, there's a resistance that is trying to survive. And the weapon that they think can destroy the Scourge or kind of balance out the odds of defeating the Scourge lies in Chernobyl. So that's where they're going in. So the first team is immediately executed by what could be the Scourge. And then you explained a little bit about the year and the status quo of humans. So enter the Savage Squad 6. It's a group of 6 elite warrior women that are hired to go into Chernobyl and retrieve this weapon. So this is a special ops team. So you've got Charlie, the leader, the second in command, Hauser, and you've got Shells and a couple of other characters that have their own special abilities. Like one of them is explosives, one of them is a sniper. And together they're going into the strange land trying to find this weapon. Now, they will run into the Scourge, and let me just show you kind of what the Scourge looks like. They get separated. Not all of them make it out, by the way. As a matter of fact, towards the end of this, there's quite a high body count. They do run into other humans that were part of maybe a special ops squad team, and maybe there's a little bit of twist as to what exactly this weapon is that will bring hope to the remaining human resistance. And yes, this is what the Scourge looks like. So it's like these mutated creatures, but they're huge, right? It's not just like a small dog. Some of them are huge, like the size of buildings. And again, not everybody makes it out of here, but this is what the artwork looks like. Let's look a little bit more. Yeah, so this is a better idea as to how big the Scourge can be, or how big they can get, and what exactly is controlling them. And 120 pages, $19.99. Let's look in the back at your character designs here. And yeah, they'll tell you, like right here, Maggie's the communication specialist, playful, but she knows her business. And then even some drawing of the actual Scourge creatures. And then issue number 1, the trade paperback cover. And each one of these issues that are collected in here, the cover is right in front of the chapter. So that is Savage Squad 6. Spinal Cord. And that right there just screams metal, that cover. And that's what this is about. It's about these musicians that are going on a huge tour, but a lot different than most musicians do. This is all written by David Brania and art and letter by Prajito. And then you have color assistance by Emanuel Castaldi. So this is the story of this band that isn't that popular. You've got the character of Cliff, Angela, and Angus. And at the very beginning here, it seems like something's going on where they're like, oh my gosh, drive faster, faster. And Angela, who's driving, says, oh, it's a pain driver. So then we go back a week. And in this flashback, you get to see that Cliff, the guitarist right here for the band of Spinal Cord, gets a package. And it's a package that says Route 666. It's Pain Records. And what it is they've been chosen to participate in this competition, but it's like a tour competition that is sponsored by Pain Records. So of course, because they're an unknown band, they jump at the chance to do it. So you've got Nicholas, who's the drummer. Oh, here it is. Angus, the guitarist. Angela, the vocalist. And then Cliff, the bass guitarist. So what they do is like, hell yes, any chance we get to play our music for some people, we're doing it. So there's a map here. And the map is to Route 666. And what's interesting is that Cliff immediately points out, how is this Route 666? Like, that hasn't been finished yet. How could we possibly take a road trip on this route? So that's what happens. They end up getting this really crappy van, And together they leave their lives behind, their families and their jobs, and they go on this road trip. Now, at first it seems like, okay, we're going on this road trip to compete in this competition for the best band. It's almost like a battle of the bands. But they get into some demonic and supernatural things in here. Like, they have to play at dinners, they have to play in front of this castle. So there's ghosts and different apparitions here that will haunt them. And then even sometimes they have to, like, battle their inner, almost like fears, if you will. So it's a really cool story about, this group of kids that are down on their luck when it comes to music and not being able to perform anywhere. And then given the chance to perform, unfortunately, for some demonic creatures, and then having to prove their worth as to how they can come together as a team. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. Not as a team, as a group. All the way in the back is where you're going to find the character designs back here, and including the pain drivers who play a big part through here chasing them down. This book has 200 pages and retails for $24.99. Magic Order Volume 2 by Mark Miller and Stuart Eminem, and it is Volume 2 because that's what the series was called. So not only is it Volume 2 in the chronological reading order of Magic Order, but it's also, that's what the series was. It was the Magic Order. This contains issues of the Magic Order Volume 2, issues 1 through 6. So really quickly, let's go ahead and give credit. Stuart Eminence, the artist. Sonny Go is the colorist. And David Curell is the colorist for the other chapters. Clem Robbins is your letterer. The book has 184 pages and retails for $19.99. So in the very first volume, we established that there were 5 families in the Magic Order, and something happened. I don't want to spoil in case you haven't read the first one, but then again, what are you doing watching the overview of the volume 2? Something happens where there were some new rules set that in the past, like, people in the families, in the magic families, could do whatever they want to. They could kill, they could do whatever they wanted to do as long as they follow and abide by the different families and their laws. So it's kind of like a gangster mafia type of story meets, I guess, Harry Potter in a way. Like, we start off with this kid that has accidentally summoned a demon, and the demon is gone and killed his family. So we meet a couple of characters. Now, if you read Volume 1 and these characters are kind of investigating these demons and these things that aren't supposed to be happening in the real world. So we do see these characters are related to the Cordelia. So if you read the first volume, there are some characters that will appear from the first volume in here because that happened a while back. This is focusing more on the character of Cordelia and her leading the new order as they see like new challenges for the magic families here that are existing in our world, still abiding by these new rules. So there is a new antagonist going by the name of Victor Crone who emerges, and he has ties to a lot of the families in their past. So in here you're going to see new characters with some old characters showing up, plus throwing in some more new villains, if you will. I really like the character of Cordelia, though. She was one of my favorites, and my goodness, I don't think Stuart Eminem's art just, to me, it just keeps getting better and better. I love the guy ever since Final Night, and then that was the thing about him. He was always able to change his art style. This one here does have mature themes, mainly due to the violence and mainly due to the language. And there's a lot of violence here, too. Now, I think Volume 3 was drawn by someone else, and I know there's a Volume 4 coming out. Volume 3 drops this December, so I'm maybe doing an overview of that soon. And apparently, there's a Netflix show that's coming, too, and here's some designs behind the scenes of the Netflix show. And then you have your variant covers all the way in the back, and a small preview of Volume 3 right here, and who some of the characters may be. And then continued, and then the Miller World titles reading order. And of course, some of these are going to be available in library editions. And that is the Magic Order Volume 2. And now it is that part of the video where I remind people to smash that like button. No, really, it is that part of the video where we look at the spines of all these releases coming out, or that have come out already from Dark Horse Comics. And yes, also a reminder to hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please think about subscribing. We do put out videos every day. All right, let's continue with the overview. Powers, Volume 7. So here we have Brian Michael Bendis' and Michael Avon Oeming's continuation of their Power story that feature both of the characters of Dina Pilgrim and, of course, Walker still being a big part of this. So Brian Michael Bendis, Michael Avon Oeming, colored by Nick Filardi, lettered by Chris Alepolis and Clayton Cowles. And this volume here contains Powers Bureau 1 through 12. This book has 376 pages and retails for $29.99. So I think it's interesting that they had to call it Powers Bureau. They couldn't call it Powers FBI, because I know there's always been a problem with the FBI actually having their name being used in TV shows and comics, despite the fact there was an actual TV show. But anyway, so mature themes, by the way, mainly due to the violence and sexual content and also the language in this book. So Walker and Pilgrim are now both FBI agents, and they're working in a task force that are Powers, like a task force Powers, or a Powers task force, if you will. So they're dealing with the same kind of crimes, but now they're on another level. They're no longer detectives, right? Now they are experiencing things from the FBI level. So it's going around, it's going around international, if you will. So what happens here in the first story arc is Walker has to go undercover to go inside of this group of rogue Powers to find out who exactly bankrolled this horrible thing that happens to a bunch of babies, like this operation, because they need to have this genetic power, right? But there's a weird twist, and again, mature themes, because something happens if some of this DNA gets somebody impregnated, if you will. So maybe this is the way their world is going to be populated by Powers, if you will. So that's the first story arc, and the second story arc is about the introduction of the Seven and who they are. And again, it's putting both Walker and Pilgrim at odds with each other, leading to a big standoff, not just between both of them, but the actual Bureau, if you will. And there is a return of a big character in this volume too. So let's look in the back for some extras, because I don't want to spoil everything. I just kind of want to give you the pitch. So in the back you have some covers, and some of these are variant covers. And most of these, most of these are the original covers. And you have unused pages. The script of page, so you have the script, the thumbnail, the finished inks, and then you have the colors. I love when they add things like that. And it's always good to see these characters back. So that is volume 7 of Powers. 376 pages, $29.99. Usagi Yojimbo, Ice and Snow. And it's so crazy to think about how we're getting a Usagi Yojimbo story that is fully in color and not in black and white first. So, because Usagi Yojimbo started as a monochrome, like it's all black and white, right? Up until Stan Sakai decided to take the character and move over to IDW, and then they started releasing new volumes in color. Well, he brought the character back to his home that's been home for a long time, and that's Dark Horse. And here is where they're bringing the colors back. So that's really cool. This is all done by Stan Sakai, of course, not only penciled and inked, but also lettered and then colored by Hi-Fi Color Designs. And there's a forward by Zach Davison, who has worked with Stan Sakai for a long time, for many, many years, talking about the lore that he introduces in this book, and mainly the different yokai, the demons. So this all takes place in the aftermath of the Green Dragon. Now, the beauty of stories like Usagi Yojimbo is that you don't need to have read the previous volume to enjoy the current volume. They kind of stand on their own. Yes, it ends on a cliffhanger that will lead into the next story. But I feel like, and I always have felt that Usagi Yojimbo has always stood on its own. It's like you're like dipping your toes into this world that has existed for a long time that everybody else seems to talk about. But you're just kind of peeking in. How are you going to dip your toes and peek in at the same time? What the hell am I talking about? Okay, you're peeking in behind the curtain of this magical world that everybody else seems to know and talk about, and you're just getting a taste. And that taste is addicting. This collects Usagi Yojimbo, Ice and Snow, 1 through 5. It is really volume 39 of Usagi Yojimbo. I don't think, yeah, they don't have it on the spine, nor do they have it on the back, but it is labeled as volume 39. So after the events of Green Dragon, Usagi and Yukichi, his cousin, are lost in this forest. And they're being attacked by this group of bandits. And what they do is, like, Usagi gets a call. He hears something, and it could be familiar to him, or something weird is calling to his name. So both him and his cousin are now drawn to whatever this voice is. Like, I think it's really cool how Usagi has all this, you know, he's almost in touch with the side of the dark and the yokai, if you will. And speaking of demons and things that are going after them, well, Jay is back, and so is Keiko. Both of them are on Usagi's trail, and both of them run into a team of bandits themselves. And you'll get to see just how creepy Jay is. Now, Usagi does find out that the voice was coming from this lady named Yuki. And Yuki has a little bit of a secret here. Jay, in order to take the lead from this group, ends up killing their boss, and he's like, I'm captain now. And I just love that, you know, you get a taste of the evil that he is in this power. And throughout the whole thing, you'll get a taste of just how strong these characters are. So both of Usagi and Yukichi are now in this cabin. Both of them are fed. And as it turns out, Yuki does have a secret. And the secret is that she is... It's creepy when Usagi wakes up in the middle of the night. She is, like, just on top of poor Yukichi. She reveals that she is a Yuki Onna. And it is explained what a Yuki Onna is through here. And she goes after them, right? So eventually they escape her. She runs into Jay. There's a huge battle. And Usagi and Yukichi end up meeting a group of old people here, like a couple here in this village, because they are drained. They've just had this huge battle. They've escaped death again. And it is in this village that they find out the secret of the Nekomata, which is mountain cat demons. And you can find out exactly what that means by reading this. This book gets my seal of approval. It's definitely one of these wonderful series that I just love picking up and reading cover to cover. It's one of those addicting series that I just can't wait to talk about. And it's hard to talk about it without going too much into spoilers, but there's a lot of amazing things that happen here, and I cannot wait for the next volume. And in the back, we do have some wonderful covers. And then we have variant covers too. I really like that David Mack cover. There's just something really cool about that. And some of the covers feature characters that are not in the story, that are not part of the story, but they are featured in here. The book has 160 pages, and again, retails for $24.99. And they credit every one of the variant artists in here. There we go. And that is Usagi Yojimbo, Volume 39, Ice and Snow. The World of Black Hammer Omnibus, Volume 4. These stories that are collected in here were previously released in library editions. But now they're being released in these trade paperbacks. And again, Dark Horse calls them Omni. So whenever I see people ask me, like, is this going to be an oversized hardcover? Keep that in mind. Every publisher is different in how they word things. This is an omnibus, but it is the trim size of a trade paperback. So in here is the Skulldigger story and Skeleton Boy and the Unbelievable Unteens. So the story is by Jeff Lemire, Ray Fox helping out Jeff in the Unbelievable Unteens. And then you have art by Tonchi Sonjik and Steve Wands doing the lettering. And then down here, David Rubin is the artist, color, and letters, which is just crazy for the horrors to come. And then, of course, Tyler Crook doing the art and lettering for the Unbelievable Unteens. So the story of Skulldigger is taking place in Spiral City. If you haven't read any of the Black Hammer books, I strongly suggest reading them. They're freaking amazing. They're a love letter to Golden and Silver Age comics with some modern age stuff, a little bit of a modern twist to them. But by the way, this book has 296 pages and retails for $29.99. So with the Spiral City story comes Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy. And both of them are after Grim Jim, who has just recently escaped from prison, and they have to go and take him out. Of course, this is your take on Batman and Robin with the Punisher, and then you've got Grim Jim, like kind of like the Joker. But there are some twists and turns to this story, and that's the beauty of the Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy that was originally published in the World of Black Hammer. I think it was 1 through 6, if I'm not mistaken. So that's your first storyline, and then you get this right here. This is the Unbelievable Unteens with the prelude, The Horrors to Come, right here. This is the one by Ruben, and then the Unbelievable Unteens. And this one is really strange. So it's after going to like the signing at a comic book convention, Jane Ito pretty much finds herself visited by one of the characters that she thought she created inside the comic book. So it's like a comic book inside of a comic book. And then she starts questioning, did I create this world? Or maybe I'm just writing about something I saw. So it becomes this really surreal, trippy type of story. And of course, the wonderful artwork that you have in here really helps, like, with just how dark and creepy Black Hammer can be, and just how different it is than the story that you have towards the very beginning. And then in the back is very similar to what you have in the back of the library editions, and that is the extras. Like, you've got the layout pages, the thumbnails, and a little bit of the script, character designs, and then backgrounds, and from both of the series in here. And then the covers, of course. Colonel Weird by Tyler Crook. And then other Black Hammer books. It's a phenomenal series that I hope never really ends, because I really like this world, and I love the world building that comes with it. EC Archives. Now, it's really unfair that every time I do these overviews, I have only just one seal of approval, because anytime you have the EC library, that will always get my seal of approval. I think that will go without saying. So you have both the Haunt of Fear and Tales from the Crypt, both of them with a volume 4. Both of these have been released previously in hardcover format, and now coming out in a trade paperback format for the price of this is $19.99. Man, what a deal. Let's talk about Haunt of Fear first. So this collects Haunt of Fear 19 through 24. So we're about to wrap up the series, unfortunately, because it did get canceled due to the Seduction of the Innocent book. This one comes with the freaking forward by Rob Zombie, though, of all people, talking about these wonderful comics that were found, back in the 50s, and how important the EC archives are to every comic book library. So I'm really happy that, Dark Horse is continuing to keep publishing these, even though it's in softcover format, but I still think it's great that these are still coming out in a more affordable way for people to enjoy. If you've never read any of this, this is your horror anthology. The Haunt of Fear is introduced by the Old Witch, that is your narrator, whereas the Crypt Keeper is the Tales from the Crypt, and then the Vault, is it the Vault Keeper? Yeah, Vault Keeper is your Vault of Horror. And each one of the issues that are collected in here will have about 3 to 4 different stories, sometimes a little bit more. This one is really cool because there's a lot of stuff in here, especially when you get to the back, by Odo Binder and Carl Wessler. And I think this is the one, the Sin Deep, if I'm not mistaken. No, that's Creep Course. There's one in here that I found really cool. I really like this story, because there's always one story that sticks with you in these collections, especially when you're dealing with anthologies. But this one here, in the final volume, there's a Only Sin Deep story? Yeah, this one right here, about a woman that will pay any price to stay young and beautiful. And this is like every other story that comes in these collections, that unfortunately, there's a price to pay, and there's a twist. And if you do something horrible, you get your comeuppance. So this collection is just like all the other ones are great, but it's cool to see somebody like Oda Binder come into the world of horror. You still have your classics in here. You still have Reed Crandall, you still have Jack Cammon, you still have Graham Ingalls, and Jack Davis, for example. But this is the type of artwork you're going to be seeing through here. And again, this was originally published in hardcover, but now with these new trade paperback editions. And yes, these are the modern colors. This one has 216 pages and retails for $19.99. And then we talked a little bit about Tales from the Crypt when we were, well, not really a lot, but we were just showcasing what these books were. This one also $19.99. And we have one more volume. The introduction here for this book is done by Russ Cochran, and talking about what this world of Tales from the Crypt means to him. And in here, you're going to find different stories from different eras, mostly with a little bit of a horror twist. This collects issues 35 through 40 of Tales from the Crypt. And again, about to wrap up. We'll have one more volume, and then that is it. That is the cover they chose from issue number 37. And Tales from the Crypt is all introduced by none other than the Crypt Keeper. So that's who introduces you to the anthology series in here. But another type of anthology where you see people get their comeuppance because they've done something evil, right? Wanted to come back to one of my favorite stories in here. How Green Was My Valley. This is about a man, a two-timer right here, that is messing around with these two ladies and ends up going so far as to getting married to both of them. One's a golfer, one is a bowler. He makes the mistake of accidentally gifting them each other's gifts, and when they find out, well, let's just say it goes into some dark territory. I freaking love it. It's not my only one that I like in here. Last Laugh is awesome. The Craving Grave is great. And I wonder if anybody else does this ever since Tales from the Crypt, the TV show on HBO. Does anybody else read The Crypt Keeper, like with, oh, what was the voice actor? John, is it John? Not Krasinski, that's Jim. John Kassir. John Kassir's voice from Tales from the Crypt. Does anybody else do that when reading the character of the Crypt Keeper? Please tell me I'm not the only one, because there's just no way. But yes, this is an amazing collection again, and you've got the work in here of Jack Davis, Al Feldstein. There's a few other creators that help along the way, but that is mainly your two main creators. Okay, let's talk about... let's do the food. Is it Food for Thought? Yeah, Food for Thought. Such a very first story here in issue number 40. Again, the covers are all intact here. You get everything, including I think most of the ads, not all the ads. So this is the Food for Thought. This is one that's scripted by Al Feldstein, and the artwork is by Jack Davis. And this is all about this lady that plots to run away with the circus animal trainer because her husband doesn't love her, even though he is able to project his thoughts to her. And that's what this is. Again, does she get her happy ending? Does she actually get to run away with the animal trainer in the story? Again, it's a little bit of... Actually, most of these have a big twist to them. There'll be one more, and then there's other EC library comics. Last but certainly not least is another horror anthology. This one not from the world of EC, but from the world of Warren Publishing. This is the Eerie Archives, Volume 7. And much like Tales from the Crypt, these have been previously released in hardcover formats before by Dark Horse Comics. Now, it's a little bit different. Like, Tales from the Crypt actually breaks it down by different issues. This doesn't break down the issues, but it does break down the individual issues. So you don't get like a table of contents at the very beginning telling you what is collected in each of the issues. You do get it right before the issue starts, though. So it is collecting issues 32 through 36. All the stories in here are in black and white. And the book has 288 pages and retails for $24.99. And this one has mature themes, mainly due to some of the violence and some of the nudity, because it does have adult content. And we're not even at the beginning of the Spanish invasion, as you call them. Is that what it was called? Like the Spanish invasion? Where a bunch of these artists from Spain came over and started working on these particular stories. Each of the covers is intact, and that is the only thing you're going to find in color in here. And see what I mean? This is what I was talking about. It's broken down by table of contents per issue. And Eerie is a little different, right? Like, Eerie is also a horror anthology, but it's got like sci-fi elements to it. Like, the very first story is Superhero. This is the one that is drawn by Tom Sutton, and the story is by Steve Skeets. And they do break down who the creators are. And it's a little bit of a twist, especially if you love comic books. It's comic books about superheroes. You really appreciate that story because what Warren Publishing did was kind of break down all the stereotypes about comic books, like superhero comics. You're going to see some Jerry Conway stuff in here. You're going to see some Richard Corbin in this volume. Ken Barr. You're going to see somebody named Marvin, or is it Marvy, I think what they call him, or what he's credited as. Wolfman, who of course went on to do other horror things, especially for Marvel Comics. But you're going to see Carlos Garzón in here, some of his work. And there's a really funny story in here by, is it Alan Hewiton, I think, who does the story about the devil. But the way the devil, or I think it's Mick Jagger, if I'm not mistaken, it's in the Sympathy for the Devil story. All kinds of different artwork in here, and yes, done in a black and white format. I thought I almost had to censor the video at the very beginning because I was like, oh wait, no, she's covered, I'm good. For a minute I thought she wasn't, but she's got gold plates around there. And then you get a little bit of behind the scenes, so all the articles and all the ads are in here, or most of the ads rather, not all of the ads. These books, much like the Tales from the Crypt, are printed in this thick glossy paper stock, so it's not like your matte paper, and the contrast here just looks beautiful. And, oh, there is, Boris Vallejo does this cover to issue number 34. Oh, so awesome. So there's a lot of phenomenal creators that work on these books. $24.99, and again, has 288 pages. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count of each of these books. Let me know in the comments down below if you are picking up the series like Powers or Black Hammer in this format, if you're checking out any of the new trade paperbacks that are out, and if you are a huge collector of Usagi Yojimbo, you hope one day it may be released in the Usagi Yojimbo saga, fully in color too. It's so weird to just read Stan Sakai's masterpiece in color first before black and white. Anyway, any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Everybody stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.